Hi guys, Aka here. Happy Easter to you all. I hope you had a great one. You know, Easter is really a big time of year for me and my family. So I've been busy doing family stuff and other things. So yeah, that kept me away from videos for some time. I also have some things that I'm working on in the background. More on that on a future date. But yeah, Easter got me busy during this time. So this video I had been meaning to do, but yeah, it just kept getting rolled back because of all of those things. But yeah, here we are, and it's great stuff. By the way, before I continue, just wanted to say that the great folks at Paxify are also wishing everyone a very happy Easter as well. So, that's good stuff. Now, as we know, about a week ago, when the Easter event started, Evony released a new update for Ascension. Okay, most of us already know about this, and there was quite a bit of commotion about the compensation and things like that. I had spoken my mind about it, a few other people had chimed in as well, and Evony eventually gave, I want to say most of us, because I know some people didn't get it, but most of us got a second round of compensation, which was great. However, what I want to talk about here is the hidden cost benefit that actually came out with this update that Evony did. Okay, of course, you have the main thing, which is the reduced cost for doing specialty on some generals and doing ascension on some generals. Okay, that's the immediate thing that you get with this update. However, when you go deeper, there are some other benefits and costs that we get with this update. For example, I don't know how many of you noticed this, but did you notice that the cost to dismiss purple generals has been reduced? Yeah, it has. It used to cost the same to dismiss a purple general, but now it costs only 200 gems to perfectly dismiss a purple general. Now, I'll be perfectly honest, I didn't notice if this was done before this update, but I certainly noticed it after the update. So, tell me guys, if this is something that was there before, fine, great, but I'm noticing it now and I'm attributing it to this update. So yes, dismissing purple generals is now a lot cheaper than it used to be. So if you wanted to gear up your keep or your family members' keeps with Sanadas and Spartacuses, then yeah, you're good to go now. It's a lot cheaper to do that. So that's one thing. But of course, that's not the main thing that we're looking at. We want to look at the generals that were actually part of this reduced thing. Now, there are different sets of these generals and different benefits that we get. So we're going to start with the ones for sub-cities. As you very well know, we have generals like Empress Wu and Charles Martel. Okay, these are your utility generals, or generals that you use for other stuff other than PvP. Both of these generals are for construction in your sub-city. And for people that are trying to grow and develop their sub-cities, that's a big deal for them. However, if we look at the ascension of these generals, they actually don't have any more construction speed or construction-like buffs in their ascension. That's Charles Martel, and here's Empress Wu. Okay, in the first three ascensions, no construction buffs in there. But what this update does is that if you're going to be using these generals, the normal sacrifice that you will make for having the construction generals in your subs and then losing debuffs, you can kind of offset that a bit, because you can ascend these generals to the 3rd star and you get some debuffs for that. So you're not making a full trade-off while you are using these generals. You can keep them in your subs for longer and still maintain a certain level of debuff ability with that. So that's an added benefit that is not immediately obvious for people. For anyone interested, for these generals, Empress Wu is the general that you want to use for siege and range debuffs, while Charles Martel you would use for ground and mounted. Okay, so Wu, range and siege debuffs, Martel, ground and mounted. Okay, good stuff. Now, that's it for the utility generals. Let's go and look at some of the, more PvP focused generals. The biggest one that a lot of people might be talking about is Nero. Okay? Nero is a sort of like universal general for you to get for debuffs. Okay? His stats, he pretty much debuffs everything. Might not be a ton of debuffs in terms of the actual amount, but his coverage is very good. Now, typically, people will be getting Nero for siege HP debuffs. And if you're looking at that now and his first 3 ascensions are free, that's easy, 30, 40% HP debuffs for siege that you can get without blinking an eye. Okay, so Nero is there. Another general that we have is Catherine II. She's also another general that people look at for getting siege HP debuffs. Now, this is my opinion. I personally feel that Nero is a better general than Catherine. However, Catherine has the benefit of being easier to get the debuffs from than Nero. Because for Nero, for you to get his full benefit, you have to do his Ascension and his specialties. For Catherine, however, you only have to do her Ascension. Okay? And of course, that Ascension is now cheaper. You can take it all the way to 3 stars and, that's good. So for people that have been struggling to get generals and want to improve their siege debuffs and things like that, this is a very easy pathway for you to take to get some more siege, particularly HP debuffs. Okay? Great benefit in there. Now, aside from these two, another obvious option for sub-general that we have here is good old Andrew Jackson. With this update, Andrew Jackson's first 3 ascensions are pretty much free, and yeah, that's a good one for a lot of people because a lot of people have Andrew Jacksons. He's one of the staple sub-generals in Evony. In fact, this is my sub-general list. I have 3 fully ascended. In fact, if we even scroll down, I've got a 4th one just there waiting for, one of these days when I might get an extra sub, So yes, being able to easily ascend Andrew Jackson is a big benefit in my opinion. Now, of course, there are some other sub-generals that this update came to as well. Harold, Sixi, Arminius. But I don't know how useful they would be for a lot of people. If Catherine, Nero, and Andrew Jackson are going to be like the A team, then Harold, Sixi, and Arminius will be like the B or maybe even C team. I don't know if you'd want to upgrade them and ascend them, but, that's there. Okay, so that's it for the sub-generals in this update. We now want to talk about the PvP generals because this is a big one in my opinion. And the first 2 generals that we have to talk about, Scipio and Ludwig. Coincidentally, both ground generals. These 2 generals, you can now ascend them to the 1st star pretty much for free. The only problem with them though is their fragments are not really easily available. You have to get them from tokens, and for most people, you would have to have been stashing them up for a long time. Assuming you do have the fragments, then you're golden. You're set. You can easily ascend these generals. The only question would now be, what do you do with them? Okay? For bigger players that might have staved up a lot of these fragments and things, you can use them as a secondary, even, tertiary general. Okay, for reinforcements, for, extra kills, things like that. That's an option, all right? However, the biggest option that people are looking at is options to put these guys in the Senate. And when we're talking about the Senate, then the options spread out a bit more because Scipio and Ludwig, as we said, are not exactly tavern options. However, Minamoto, Martinus, and King Arthur are tavern options. They are generals that you can get in the tavern, and you can ascend them at the new reduced cost, and after ascending them, you can pop them in your Senate. So that's great stuff. Minamoto, you will use for range. Martinus and King Arthur, I believe you will use for mounted. Let me just check that and confirm. Okay, here we go. All right, so that's Martinus in there. And if I scroll down, yes, that's King Arthur in there. So if you're raiding the tavern and you get either Martinus or King Arthur, you can actually ascend them and use them for your mounted slots in the Senate. And then Minamoto you use for the range slots. Okay, so all of this stuff that we have talked about are, if you want to call them, the hidden benefits of that Ascension update. However, there is a hidden cost. And it's something that maybe a lot of people have not realized, but people I have spoken to that have actually tried to take advantage of this benefit are noticing this thing now. So we've talked about Minamoto, Martinus, and King Arthur. Let's say you're like, extra hype, and you're like, great, I need to put some generals in my Senate. I need these guys. Let me get them and ascend them and put them in the Senate and get the extra buffs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you're going to run into a bit of a brick wall. Why? Because when you come to the tavern, you find that you're not really getting the generals that you want. Now, I don't know if this is a consequence of there just being too many generals in the tavern right now, or, there's some shady business going on and Evony is doing some backhanded stuff. Okay, I'll put the conspiracy theories aside. I don't know what exactly is going on, but one of the hidden costs of this new update is that to get these 3 generals, it is now extremely difficult. For those of us that have tried this out, please feel free to share your experiences in the comments, okay? It's going to be helpful for a lot of people to really understand what's going on. But for me personally, I've tried raiding the tavern on 3 different days. Each of those 3 days, I got 1 copy of these 3 generals. No, not 1 copy of each of them. The first day, I got 1 copy of Minamoto. The second day, I got 1 copy of Martinus. The third day, I got 1 copy of Martinus. That's it. I got 1 copy per day. I spent 100k gems each of those days. And those were the only copies I was able to get. So the hidden cost of this Ascension update is that you're going to be paying a lot more gems if you want to make sure that you are in a position to take advantage of those Ascension benefits for your Senate. It's going to cost you a lot. My rough estimate is that you'll be looking at somewhere between 500 to 1 million gems per general that you want to ascend. Okay? It's a broad range, but in all honesty, that's kind of what I've been seeing, and I haven't seen any evidence that it's cheaper than this. So please, guys, whatever information you have on this, please feel free to share. Let's know, and let's see what we can do to actually take advantage of this thing to our benefit. All in all, this Ascension update, again, I think has been a good one. I think the update, broadly speaking, has been beneficial to a lot of players. Now, for anyone that is struggling to get to grips with the Senate and see how you can get yourself in a position where you can get all the buffs you need from there, I have this video here that goes into detail about how you can get buffs from the Senate when you don't necessarily need to rely on Ascension. So if you haven't seen it and you think it might be helpful for you, check it out. That's it from me, guys. Thank you very much. Aka signing out.